Shalom from Jerusalem. This is Watchmen Talk, a series of conversations with Israeli experts and practitioners in the fields of the military, intelligence, and diplomatic arts. And our guest for a second part is Carmi Gillon. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
A former chief of the Israeli security agency Shin or SHABAK, and also a prolific author of espionage and sabotage and intrigue thrillers. And quite recently, you had another book in the series. Your what number?
3.
Number 3.
Altogether, number 5.
Some of them with co-authors.
I'm co-author. Unfortunately, my partner passed away a month ago.
Innocently enough, had nothing to do with the plot of.
I was not involved.
Okay, you have an alibi.
Yeah, and we were really good partners. He was 90 years old, and it's not easy to write together a book.
Of course.
And we found a way, and we were very. Every year we published another book.
What is your new book?
The last one we endorsed John Le Carre, who was my favorite espionage book.
Did he know it? Did you have a chance to meet him?
He passed away before we...
No, because
no, never.
Ephraim Halevi, for instance, a former Mossad chief.
Yeah, he told me that, yes.
What is the plot of the new book?
The new book is, in my eyes,
a real event.
A very realistic story.
But based on real events. Not only realistic, but real.
There are many chapters that's based on real events. But the main story is about an agent, an Iranian agent, that in deep cover sent from Iran to Los Angeles, and after become Jewish. He was Muslim, becomes Jewish. He married a Jewish girl, had a family, and moved with his family to Israel as a new immigrant, a very successful businessman.
You know what this plot reminds me of, if I may? This is a mirror image of how Israel planted the famous spy Eli Cohen in the Arab community in Buenos Aires in order to come to Syria.
Exactly, it seems.
So all organizations have the same modus operandi.
Yeah, and especially in my book, it's we fight against this espionage. Not only the only one is in collaboration with the CIA, FBI, MI6, MI5. Shin and Mossad, 6 organizations, just to show that there are other operations like this one. And this, thanks to this collaboration, really, we succeeded.
Now, Shin it's been 27 years since you left Shin but the art of human intelligence,
yes.
Is that still the most prestigious and productive part of Shin or is now SIGINT, cyber, is that the main role?
First, it's the most prestigious, and there is a reason for that. It's one-on-one job. SIGINT and the rest, it's a group job. Now, we need to know one thing, and I think that I maybe surprise you. Shimon Peres once told me that the problem with the intelligence, they can't know what are the intention of the leaders. For example, if Arafat really means peace, or Hafez al-Assad in Peres' days wants to go to war, or the peace process with Sadat and Egypt. You don't know the incentives. What you know is what you can see.
Right.
The only one who could give you this insight is still, until now,
an agent, a spy.
An agent, a spy who can listen or hear the voice of the leader who make the decision maker.
But if that's true, and the other side knows it, they can also deceive you. There is deception.
Yeah, but this is what I find is the most interesting war between
War of wits.
And intelligence minds. This is, I was, my specialty in the Shin Bet was humans, and I even teach in our. And
that is recruiting and handling.
Recruiting, handling. Sometimes it's a very long process, and it's the same. Men's or women are the same if they're Arabs or English or Americans or Israelis.
What are the main motives? Money, lust, revenge?
The best motive is ideology. If he agrees with your, with the reason why he become an agent, that make him the best. But sometimes it's good, to be close to a very strong and powerful organization like Mossad or Shin Bet, speaking about Israel. And sometimes the money is part of it. If it's only money, it's never be good enough. You need more motives. You need to find more motives.
Because someone else will pay more.
Exactly.
But
money
once
is very cheap.
But once you recruit an agent, is there at least a hint, even if an unspoken one, that he can be blackmailed if he, for some reason, reneges on you? He goes to the other side. You can publish the fact that he has worked for you.
Well, the first time you do such thing, you won't find any agents anymore.
The word will be out.
Never speak about your agents.
So you were a senior Shin Bet officer, a division chief, which is the equivalent of a major general in the Israeli military. And there was some competition for the job of Shin Bet chief. Your predecessor, Yaakov Perry, recommended you over Gideon Ezra, who was an expert on Palestinian terror. What were the main considerations with Yitzhak Rabin choosing you?
I think that, it's not easy to speak about it because...
Now it's part of the historical record.
Yeah, but Gideon Ezra passed away and it was not a good time in good relations during those days. Rabin, it took time to Rabin to decide. I was much younger than Gideon Ezra.
45.
Ehud Barak.
You were 45.
I was 45. He over 55, I think. Ehud Barak once told me that when Rabin asked him, "What is your recommendation?" He was then chief of staff. Barak told him, "You see the picture behind you? If you'll ask Gideon Ezra, bring me the
picture.
The picture, he destroy the wall and bring you the picture. And if you ask Carmi Gillon to do it, he will take the picture and you wouldn't feel." Or, I don't know.
Well, the story is true. This has been a line used at the time, but the originator was probably Yaakov Perry. Either he heard it from Barak, but this is when someone briefed the press to tell people who wrote about intelligence why it was important that you, rather than the other contender, be appointed. This was the very line regarding the picture on the wall.
Okay.
So you were appointed.
Thank you.
Okay. So you were appointed, and obviously this is early 1995, the Oslo process. But after the massacre at the Cave of the Patriarchs, Hamas hits back with several massacres. Arafat does not do enough to combat it. And this is your main mission?
Yeah. I would say my only mission as head of Shin Bet. You need to work with priorities. The suicide bombers was something new those days. and the damage was terrible. Buses and shopping centers and so on. And day after day, or maybe not day after day, but there were many attacks. Many was organized by the one who got the
Yahya Ayash.
Yahya Ayash, the engineer, who was a real engineer, chemical engineer.
Muhandes.
He was really an expert and had fantastic head.
So this is a rare example of people like Qassam Soleimani later, people whose elimination is important in the fight against terror.
Exactly. Because their influence is much wider than just a small group that has one leader. And both of them, are masters in terrorism, or were masters.
So from your perspective, was the Oslo process a failure just because Arafat did not fulfill his part? Because he signed on. The condition was for the Palestinian Liberation Organization to become the representative of the Palestinian people and get custody of the Palestinian Authority was that it joins Israel in fighting terror. And Arafat did not do his part.
Yes, but it's much more complicated. First, we need to remember that the days that Oslo process began were days of intifada. Terror attacks, not only buses, but also knives, kidnapping of soldiers, and so on. So it was a very sensitive situation when Rabin agreed to move on with Oslo. The expectations from Arafat to fight terrorism was very high. I would say that or maybe even during '94, he came to Gaza
in May of
'94. So maybe August '94, we realized that he's not going to be active against terrorism. But we were. It surprised us because we thought that he has motivation. I think that Arafat didn't pay his part. But also we made mistakes. For example, the first step of Oslo agreement is that the withdrawal from the cities of Jenin,
Nablus,
down to Hebron, all along the
7 cities.
7 cities. And it was month after month instead of first step, we'll see, and then we move to the second. So the old didn't have an incentive.
So the old saying, if you are going to cut the dog's tail, do it with
salami way and not in one.
No, they did it with salami, but you should have cut it once and for all.
Yeah, and that was one of the mistakes. But I would like to say something that is maybe most important. First of all, we are almost 30 years after the Oslo Agreement. In September, it was signed in the White House. Secondly, all the different governments we had in Israel with different policy actually adopted the Oslo Agreement. And thirdly, in two main things, it acted in favor of Israel. First of all, the security agreement is still effective. Of course, it has ups and downs.
Collaboration with the security organizations.
But when you check 30 years, you may say that in confidence that 27 years were good in favor of Israel. And secondly, in favor of the Palestinians is the economical agreement that was signed in Paris. It's also effective, it works. Sometimes you don't transfer the money or things like that, but in general, it is effective. So that's the reason why all the kind of prime ministers we had never withdraw from the Oslo Agreement.
But there is a Jewish side to it. We mentioned the massacre, 29 Palestinians killed by Baruch Goldstein, a captain in the reserves, a doctor who went down there in Hebron and massacred Palestinians, not just as an emotional act, it was very rational, a political act in order to derail the Oslo process.
Yeah.
And there was a commission of inquiry headed by Supreme Court Justice Shamgar. Your brother was
the secretary.
The secretary of that, at least that commission, if not the other one.
All the commissions.
All the commissions. And after that, you understood, Shin Bet, you were still number 2 or the acting head when Perry was abroad. And later on, you were the chief. You understood that you have to infiltrate the various organizations or to have an effective surveillance over individuals who may try other such terror acts, including assassinations. What was your modus operandi?
Well, my modus operandi was based, and that was my first mistake, and I made many mistakes, and I just want to mention I took the full responsibility of the Shin Bet that we failed to protect our Prime Minister Rabin. I had a strong belief in the security guys. I mean, the Prime Minister is surrounded by people who are willing to get the first bullet.
This is the security detail, his immediate envelope.
Exactly.
But there is also the division.
Yeah, but exactly like Secret Service in
United
States. Secondly, after the first bullet was shot, the second bullet must be yours. That was I was taught
when you were a security guard.
When I was a
but even if you fail to abort the assassin, he gets the first shot. He shouldn't get the next one and two, as Yigal Amir did. He shot 3 bullets.
So I had a strong belief that Rabin is protected at least from the second bullet, not the first bullet. Maybe not the first bullet, but the second. This is one thing. Secondly, it's the intelligence. But we need to remember intelligence cannot give you the alert on every attack. If it's 80%, 90%, it's good, very good. And in this case, Yigal Amir, the assassinator, was not
covered, uncovered.
Was uncovered. There are many reasons for that. I want to say again, I don't blame anyone, not the security and not the intelligence. Because I was the head of Shin Bet, it's my problem. But that's the reasons why such thing could happen. Nowadays, there is to kill or to assassinate the Prime Minister in Israel or the President of the United States, it's almost mission impossible. Okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe there is 1% of chance. Because the Prime Minister is surrounded. He is not allowed to meet people unless they were checked, security check. And those days, we lived in a different world.
But there was another person in the chain of command, and that is your own boss, Yitzhak Rabin himself.
Yes.
Who, let's imagine the assassin Yigal Amir turns around because for some reason he cannot get to Rabin, and he shoots at Shimon Peres, the foreign minister who is there. wouldn't Rabin have taken ministerial responsibility for the fact that Shin Bet under him failed in protecting another minister?
No other minister was protected those days.
No, Peres.
Peres himself, he had the one bodyguard. Yes, he could. Amir himself said in his interrogation, I could kill Peres instead of Rabin, and it could be much more easier. But he went on. And we need to remember Rabin was Palmachnik. He was
from pre-state Israel. He was a very old warrior.
Of course, very old warrior. A veteran, and when I asked him,
to wear a vest, a security
vest, he refused.
You asked, you didn't order.
I didn't order.
Could you have ordered?
I used his wife to convince him, but she failed too. Leah Rabin, his wife. One thing that he agreed was to move in his armored Cadillac.
He hated the Cadillac.
The imported from Israel, but it was under a public criticism. When this car came...
Too expensive.
In Channel 2 of those days in Israel, they showed the car and laughed at Rabin that he looked for Cadillac. He couldn't move in his old Chevrolet or something like that. Now, I drove with him in this armored car. It was like sardines, in a box. It was terrible. But what could you do, So he...
No, but not only that, he told you that if you have some extra funds, you should devote them to fighting Hamas rather than for his protection.
He didn't... We need to remember, when I had a press conference, I believe that you were there.
Yes.
In August.
At a hotel in Tel Aviv.
In August 94.
Not really a press conference, a briefing.
A briefing. And I said that it could happen. The same day, I think it was, I don't know, you were there in Davar, but in Haaretz there was an article by Yoel Marcus, a very respectful
skeptical of...
And he laughed at me that I think that we live in Banana Republic, that I say that Prime Minister...
But not only columnists. Ariel Sharon of the opposition said that this is a Bolshevik...
It's ridiculous, and it's only propaganda in favor of Rabin. So what can I tell you? But of course, nowadays, after the first assassination...
So that briefing, which you recall, brings to mind the difference, and this has to do with the Yom Kippur War too, the difference between surprise and shock. When the Shin Bet chief, you yourself, warned the public through the media that this is real and serious, people expect Shin Bet to be ready.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, the fact that there was an assassination attempt on Rabin was not a surprise. The shock was that it succeeded.
Well, you probably know it very well, much better than I do, because you had experience with many other generals. Sometimes when you speak to the public, you actually speak to your own people. And
internal communication.
Why is that? Because when you briefed your soldiers, they listen to you. But when they lie on the bed and read that the same thing he briefed me, it's
in the paper.
It's in the paper, and even the headline. Wow, it must be true, yeah. That was my let's say side target
of course.
I also try to write to the politicians, to make correspondence with politicians. And why is that? Because I went to Bibi Netanyahu, who was head of the opposition. And he didn't laugh at me, but he didn't take me seriously. I spoke to Ariel Sharon. I even go to the heads of the settlers.
And rabbis?
And rabbis. Use your influence, to prevent it. After that, my main problem was that my own people still were looking during the assassination for the Hamas terrorist, someone in Kafia and Eber.
And not the profile of...
And not the profile of Yigal Amir, who was a nice Jewish guy, a student in Bar Ilan University.
So following that, and following some almost 25 years running, even more, from 1968, military and Shin Bet, in the service of the country, you also served as the ambassador to Copenhagen and as the mayor of a town near Jerusalem, Mevaseret Zion. Do you still go to briefings at Shin Bet? Do you offer advice?
I'll tell you a story. The only one who is still served in the Shin Bet, whom I know, or let's say he knows me, I didn't know him, is Ronen Bar, the head of Shin Bet, that in his first week I came to say
to the class,
and you are welcome to Shin Bet. And of course, I didn't realize it.
So the torch has been passed from one generation to another. Carmi Gillon,
I'm an author now. I'm not.
Of course. Author and former SHABAK Chief Carmi Gillon, thank you very much for being on Watchmen Talk. This has been Watchmen Talk with TV7 News Israel. And until the next time we meet, Shalom from Jerusalem.
For more of TV7's productions and editorials, we invite you to visit our website at tv7israelnews.com.